do a playback session.
Okay, so I've just started recording the session now, so thank you for the reminder. My name's Shannon. I'm just going to be Shannon Moyer. I'm the Director of Innovation for Fusion 5, and I'm just going to run through this presentation. I thought it'd be beneficial just for everyone on the phone call, maybe to mention their name and then why mobility is important to them, and potentially their role at Waste Management, just so I know how many business people, how many representatives of the end users, and how many technical people are on the call. So Satish, I'll start with you.
I'm Satish. I'm the BA for the CAM project, and the reason why we are looking for the mobility is because there's lots of double handling in the workshop. So the whole intent is to go from a paper-based to a paperless. So that's the intent of having the mobile app.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Sam. Sam is very quiet.
I can't hear you, Sam.
Yeah, we might.
Nah.
Okay. Right, next.
I can jump in now if you like, guys. I'm Mike McSeveny. I'm the General Manager for the, I suppose, for a third of our operating business, the Upper North Island part of it.
Okay.
So I have the workshops report through to me and sort of the management overview of a third of our fleet and operations.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. And Rich, do you just want to say good day?
Yeah, g'day guys. So I manage the ERP team here in New Zealand. I guess we're doing quite a lot. We're seeing quite a lot of mobile initiatives around the client base. So yeah, and we have got the proof of concept with the purchase order approval thing going with you guys at the moment as well. So just kind of keen to understand your general strategic direction around mobile and make sure that we hit the brief.
Fantastic. Thanks, Richard. And last but not least, Narelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm working with Shannon in innovation. It's very much around the business strategy. So not just looking at a single innovation item such as what we're doing here today with the work order management mobile, but looking at it as a whole solution. If there's anything else that may be able to bolt onto that will further enhance the ROI on whatever you're looking at around the innovation space.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks, Narelle. Righto, let's get to the next slide. Hopefully the presentation will work. I'm basing my presentation upon an agenda that was set by Satish. So what we're going to go through initially is the security and infrastructure requirements. We're going to look at how it integrates to JD Edwards. So this is some boring technology stuff. Apologies, Mike, you're probably not going to enjoy this, but I do. And then we're going to go through an introduction to the application, and then quite specifically looking at allocation of parts from inventory to work orders. We're going to look at labour and time entry. We're going to look at some PM checklist functionality, and finally how it works in an offline and online paradigm. So I thought we'll just quickly go through this. Sorry, I might mute a few people here because I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm just going to see if I can do this. There we go. If you need to speak, maybe start the chat window or unmute yourselves again. So in terms of, we've got a standard JD Edwards standard tablets with our application installed, and that is able to talk to a standard JD Edwards implementation. You'll see there that I've got 4 servers listed. I've got an AIS server, a JAS server, an enterprise server, and a database server. In general, that's a standard JD Edwards setup. And our application, we will send a couple, like an ESU, that will contain some additional code. It doesn't alter your existing code. It is bolt-on code, so it doesn't add to your technical debt as such. And that enables a bunch of the functionality within our mobile application, so specific functionality in our mobile application. Of course, what we need is some connectivity between the tablet and JD Edwards, and that clients do that a number of different ways. So I've got some clients that will enforce a VPN. So when you start the application on the tablet knows that it can only communicate from that application via a VPN. A VPN is started, and then you connect securely on a private tunnel to your JD Edwards AIS server. But then I have other customers that don't enforce a VPN, that they have a public-facing AIS server. And because it is SSL traffic, so it is also TLS, it's encrypted traffic to the AIS server, you have a level of comfort there. Also, you have to authenticate to be able to talk to AIS or to JD Edwards. So I do have clients that make it public facing, and I do have clients that enforce a VPN, and we can have a session and talk about that. Like I said, it's guaranteed that all traffic is encrypted, so there can be no sniffing at either end. And then finally, this is generally deployed via a mobile management platform. It's a mobile device management platform. Can I ask a question? I guess I have to unmute to ask questions. But do you use Android or do you use Apple technology?
At the moment, for the workshop, it will be primarily Android.
Okay.
But there could be some scope which includes iPhones or iPads also.
Okay. Well, that is a good answer because we support both Apple and we support Android. And in tablet and in phone format, it does work. But what I will say is that when I do my demonstration, you'll see that the real estate needed, you probably want to use tablet for full functionality, but then you can do ad hoc quick queries over your data using a phone without any problems.
Okay.
Generally, you will manage. You'll probably have an MDM on site to manage your mobile devices, and that's where you'll have the rules about establishing a VPN or whatever those rules you want to do when you put the application on the devices. In terms of how we talk to JD Edwards, our conversations are very simple with JDE, and we use the same language, I will say, as all the mobile applications that come standard from Oracle for JD Edwards. So we use modern open interfaces. We talk over REST and we talk to the AIS server, and that is exactly what all the mobile applications do from Oracle. So this is the modern go-to standard for integrating with JD Edwards, and that's what's implemented in our application. We also don't use the mobile application framework from Oracle. We use a lightweight development tool called Ionic to create our application, and therefore there's no heavy licensing costs per device for deploying this into your organization. So we use Ionic, which is an open source mobile development framework which supports both Android and Apple, and that's what we write our applications in. We still talk using this JSON protocol to the AIS server. So this is all still very standard conversations. We just deploy a lightweight application to the devices, not using Oracle MAF, but using Ionic. So at the end of the day, you have a smaller footprint, a more modern engine running the application, but it's still completely standard in terms of how it talks to JD Edwards on your site. And the cool thing about that is, I think as a nerd, is this is the exact same things that an IoT-based, like a truck or anything, if you wanted to enable some Internet of Things to your JD Edwards instance, maybe the real-time location of a truck, maybe the real-time location of something else in your organization, it will use exactly the same protocols, exactly the same security, and exactly the same infrastructure that you've set up for your mobile application. So that's really cool in terms of reuse. So you can reuse a lot of the webhooks that you're creating, or the technology that you're creating in your AIS server. Not only does it support your mobile devices, but it supports generic IoT. In terms of the application, it is identical to what you see in JD Edwards. So what we're doing is we're not rewriting all of that logic. AIS enables us to use the logic in the JD Edwards forms. So you see a JD Edwards form on the right-hand side, which is work order entry, and on the left-hand side, you see our tablet and our application. And what we're essentially doing is presenting in a much more user-friendly format exactly what you get in the JD Edwards web interface. Therefore, all of the after-field validation, if you change any business rules in JD Edwards, they automatically come to our application. So if you change your rules to say a work order status can only go from this to 3 other valid statuses, as soon as you make that change in JD Edwards, that's exactly what the mobile application uses. Okay, so there's some really big benefits in not having to re-engineer or redeploy modifications to the mobile app, because it's inheriting all of those business rules and logic from JD Edwards. And so then what we've done is we've made this into a format where you can quickly and easily get to all of the asset-based and work order-based functionality, hopefully, that you need on a tablet. It's easy to log into, and it's easy to do all of your work order-focused activities. There's some additional things there which enables clients to work in the field. So we have clients that use this application that don't log into JD Edwards web interface at all. All they use is the tablet every day of the week. And of course, that has its fair share of issues because people have to change their passwords every 90 days or 60 days. So we've implemented some of that basic functionality in our application as well. So you can still adhere to all of your security requirements, and people can change their passwords using the app. So they can fully exist just using the mobile application. So I thought initially I'd show you, I'll just log in and have a look at the application. So we've got the application on the right-hand side of my screen, and then we've got JD Edwards on the left-hand side of my screen. And so you'll probably be familiar with some of these screens. But what you'll see here also is the username and password. That is your JD Edwards username and password. So when you log into our application, you log in as a JD Edwards user and password. All of the JD Edwards security, the row security, column security, business security, everything for part allocation, inventory allocation, etc., we take into consideration all of those rules. So you'll only see that the data that you should see, and you'll only be able to perform the actions that JD Edwards will allow you to do. The nice thing is you can remember your credentials on the application. And so because because your tablet's locked and encrypted, you're able to use that save password functionality. We will talk about offline on the last slide of this presentation, but we'll talk about online at the moment. Online, there is no data that stays on the tablet at all, and you would probably, through your MDM, recommend encryption of all the tablet anyway, and therefore you're not at risk of losing any data. What you're presented with when you log into our application are some big buttons, big easy to use buttons. What you'll see at the top here is being able to search for work orders by person or search on work orders by asset. So you can enter specific asset criteria if you wish and look for all of the work orders for particular assets, or you can go to the work orders directly and say, oh, assigned to this crew or at status this. And so we've got two ways of searching for work orders. But then finally what we have is we have what we've called the super search, and that allows you to define relevant searches for you as someone who looks for JD Edwards work orders. So if you're responsible for certain parts, for certain warehouses, for certain business units, for certain categories of assets, you can save a search that says, show me all the open work orders for these assets in this region, or these assets at this status, and you can save that. And you can also say that have been opened in the last week or the last 3 days, etc., etc. So you will build up a series of queries that you want to load. And you'll see here, I've got some really basic queries here. So if I wanted to look at everything that are for branch plant M30, I can load that up and then just hit search, and that will show me all those. So I'm able to save as many queries as I want, which is relevant to my position. What I'm able to do then is once I load those up, I can see the results of that search on a map. So if I hit that map-based search, it actually shows me where my assets are. And so I can zoom in on any of those on a Google map because the asset location has been tagged in JD Edwards, and I can click on one of those pins and it tells me the asset, and then it tells me the work orders that are open for that particular asset. So this is just how we browse for our work orders. So we give people the ability to browse again, by work order attributes, by asset attributes, or making a complex query that you can see your assets. And then, of course, if you just want to view all the work orders for branch plant 30, then that will list all of the work orders. And then we can drill down into any of these work orders. So you see the statuses, you can sort, you can choose particular columns that you want to see. So you can say, I want to see branch plant, I want to see site number, etc. You've got a lot of functionality for sequencing those. But in terms of what we said we're going to talk about, in terms of allocating parts from inventory, we're going to search for this particular work order and then go through that. So we're going to look for 451741. What you'll see here is you've got a list of previous work orders that you've opened before, so it maintains a list of 10 previous work orders. So I'm just going to open up 451741. What I'm also going to show you is what that looks like in JDE. So if I'm in JDE and I do 451,741, we're looking at exactly the same. So bad connections in their ACD, bad connections in their ACD. If I was to edit this, and so I hit the edit button and I put bad connections in their A, B, BD to be creative. Sorry, I have to use my tablet here. A, BD, and I hit save. Oh. There's activity rules in JD Edwards that doesn't allow saving because this is in planning. But if I was to save that and search here, the updates are, you see real-time data. So every update that we do on this particular work order is updated in JD Edwards straight away. Like I said, the last slide, I'll show you how this works in offline. But when we're connected, which we are now, any changes on the tablet, any pictures of any work orders, as soon as that picture is taken and saved, that's available on within the application. So that's great. Let's say if someone had a problem out in the field fixing something, they could take a picture of the thing that they're fixing and ring back to base and say, hey, can you look at the attachments on 451741, look at the latest picture, and can you find me a new one of those because it's broken. So it enables that great information exchange. And also that picture is saved against that work order forever. So next time there's an issue with that particular piece of equipment, you've got all those photos from exactly what went on. If we look at our parts for this particular order, so already we can see that there are some parts that can be issued. So these have already been saved. So this is from inventory in JD Edwards. We've got a series of parts that we believe when this order was created and planned, we're going to need to perform that. If I want to add any parts to that work order, I can use add part here. If I look for something like maybe some fuel, so we're going to use some diesel for this, I can hit search. Actually, search. And that's looking up live JD Edwards inventory. I can go and I can select diesel fuel, and it actually shows me the branch plants or the MCUs that have stock for that particular item that I've selected. And so maybe I want 176 litres, and I'll take it from 510. And then I'm able to add that to my work order. And I can do this for any parts and anything in stock that's using the JD Edwards inventory. But I won't do that. And when it comes time to issue, when it comes time to actually use the stock, I can hit issue parts here. And then I'm able to say, I use this, I use that, I didn't use that. And I'm able to save the items that I actually allocated to the work order, hit save, and that's going to issue all of those parts to the work order. Okay. I have also the issue all button at the bottom there if I want to do that. Please, if there's any questions about that, just unmute yourselves and ask away. The second thing I was going to demonstrate is how we do labour and time entry in this application. So I'm going to go across to my work order app here, and I'm going to go across to this screen. So how we do labour and time entry is I'm going to look at a different work order. So I'm going to hit search. I'm going to load a different favourite here. I'm going to use 4 quad 04. I'm going to search for work orders. I'm going to open this one up. It's an emergency motor replacement for this mill. Now, what I can do here again is look at the labour tab. Now, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. Let's go back to the main screen. On the main screen, we can see that there is an estimated hours have been allocated against this work order for 29 hours. And what the labour tab does is it shows us the breakdown of the estimated hours. So when we go into here, we think that there's going to be a motor replacement mechanic that will do 7 hours, an electrician to wire things for 22 hours. This is a read-only screen, and that's how we've written this application. And for us, the time entry is where you put in the actuals. So when we go to time entry, we can see that these two employees, 2006 and 2049, Rod and Annette, have already put 15 and 6 hours against this work already. Now, what I can do is, if we're re-engaging on this particular work order, I can choose a JD Edwards pay type. Again, I'm looking up all central source of truth, everything from JD Edwards. I'm saying it's a regular pay. I'm going to add 12 hours. And then I'm not going to do it for Shannon Moyer. I'm going to do it for, again, address number 2006. So we'll add some more time for these particular Annette and 2049. So we'll choose 2049 as well. And this is, so as many people are working on this particular work order, we can add them to the list pretty quickly here. We also have some advanced functionality. Say some of these people didn't have a lunch break, some of these people didn't spend all that time. We can say we can allocate them on or off. And so when we add the hours, we've got the ability to quickly add all the crew, how many hours, and all of that gets saved against the work order in JD Edwards. So we just added another 12 hours for both of those employees. Again, that's saved against the work order immediately in JD Edwards. We can see that the consumed total's gone up to 45, and the two allocations there have been increased by 12 hours each. All right. The next piece of functionality that I was going to show is the PM check sheets. Now that depends on how you implement this in JD Edwards. There's many ways that people do check sheets. I'm going to show you a iteration of that. We are building another enhancement to our application to use some of the PM checklists, which is some advanced functionality in the CAM module, but people implement checklists in a myriad of different ways. So I'm just going to demonstrate how we might do one. We're going to use work order 4001 again because we like it so much. So I'm back into work order 4001 here. As we said before, we're actually, if we look at the attachments, and then if we wanted to take a photo of something relevant, as we were saying before, sorry, my screen's a little bit foggy. So you can see I can take a photo of something relevant like my phone. And then, although foggy, I'll say that's an okay photo. I can resize that if I want, although really just with this tablet, it's not going to make much of a difference. I get to choose a save. I get to choose that. And so that's created a photo against there. And now we're on work order 4004. So if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and if I'm back in headquarters and I want to find out what's been going on for this work order, if I look in JDE, I can see there's my phone. So I can see the picture of my phone, although, like I said, terrible quality. But you can see that real time, the capability for you to do something in the field and immediately have that data available to people externally. But what I do have here is I've got a PDF, which is, let's just say, it's our pre-work start checklist. So this would be in a model work order. And so when the work orders are created from the model, this attachment would be automatically populated in JD Edwards. And this is just a mock-up by me. I don't know how complex your forms are, but this is a PDF attached to JD Edwards. And then what I'm able to do is hit fill and sign. And I want to say, oh yeah, the power's been disconnected. Fantastic. I can enter a date here. So I'm going to type a date. I'm going to say Thursday, 23rd. That's okay, and then I'm going to tick these other items. Don't have to do them all. And then I'm going to put a signature, because we're all about audit here, and I've got a signature saved. And I'm going to put that just over here. I'm pretty happy with that now. And so what I'm going to do, to save, there's two ways of doing this. I could save this as a PDF on my tablet, and then reattach it, because what I'm actually dealing with is a copy of the media object. But what I've decided to do is just take a screenshot of that, because it's nice and easy. I can go back to my mobile application. I'm going to add an attachment. And then I'm going to choose the attachment that I just made. I'm going to say verified checks with signature with SIG. I'll save that. And once again, when I'm in JD Edwards, as soon as that's saved, I can look at verified checks with signature, and there's the user's signature and the fact that 2 of those checks are done. There was no fire extinguisher available, and blah, blah, blah. But you can see how we can automate, sign, verify that these pre-start checks have been done. And there are other mechanisms of presenting those work checklists, but this is how things are working with our application at the moment. Finally, one of the things that I was asked about was working offline and online. I would tell everyone on the call that working online is so much easier and better for technology than offline. So if you can possibly put things in what I call the online paradigm, I'd completely recommend it. But we realize that there's no connectivity in some areas, and so that you need to provide offline functionality. What we've essentially done is we've created this application so that you'll know when you're going offline, and you will download a unit of work or a number of units of work, which are sets of work orders that you potentially have to use offline. And so we give you the ability to actually look at your advanced searches and save an advanced search. So if I was to load, let's say, M30, so I work at a particular branch, and so I just want to take all the active work orders for this particular branch. I can take that offline. I can go work on all those work orders. And then when I've finished taking pictures, taking measurements, closing, changing statuses, etc., and I'm back with Wi-Fi, I can choose to manually sync those changes in JD Edwards. So if I go to my home screen here, and I'm going to say I'm going to go offline, and you can see it asks me, hey, you're going offline. Do you want to use one of your favorite searches? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I do. And it shows me my favorite searches. So I've got 2 single work orders and then 27 work orders for M30. So I'm going to say, I'm about to go out in the field. I want all the work orders for branch plant M30. And what the application goes and does is it goes into JD Edwards and starts downloading absolutely everything for those 27 work orders. So it downloads the inventory, the parts, the pictures, the media object attachments, the labor, etc., etc. So it goes and grabs all of that data and saves all of that data on the tablet. And so you can see it working through now and grabbing every single piece of data for the 27 work orders that are being defined by that favorite query. Now, of course, you could have many favorite queries and you could take a bunch of data offline. You saw there that I could tick multiple items and take all of those work orders offline. For JD Edwards at the back end, it does two things. It creates an object reservation, which will prevent people changing that work order if they try and change work orders that have been taken offline. So if you have people back at headquarters that are using JD Edwards like this, if they try and edit one of the work orders that I've taken offline here, they're going to get an error saying that's taken offline. We've actually also implemented another status that we recommend that you use, which is in the field. And so when people take work orders offline, not only is there an object reservation, but there is a different status which says in the field. And what that does is it tells people or tells managers or tells people wanting to allocate work orders, it knows the user that's got those in the field and it knows the status of those work orders. And that's a really handy thing to manage which work orders can be changed and which work orders are going to what people in the organization. So you see here, I've been defined as I'm offline. And so what I can then do is look at my offline orders. And I can see that I've got 27 work orders offline here. That's great. I can choose any one of those work orders if I want. So I've got 451864. Now you can see that there is some depreciated functionality. So if I go to parts, I can't actually issue inventory offline. And that is because we don't take all of your inventory offline. You can't go choosing an item, let's say, because there could be so much inventory in the system that it takes too long to download and for you to see stock availability, etc. We are looking at options for if you were to use mobile branch plants, for example, to only take the inventory offline for a particular branch plant, but that is not in the current application. So the current application is you can issue all of your parts, but you can't add inventory offline because we can't validate stock counts or warehouse stock counts, etc. You still have availability to the labor tab, and you still have all of your media objects available to you as well, where you can take photos, where you can add attachments, where you can view any PDF instructions, etc. So if you've got standard instructions, if you've got anything associated with that particular work order, then they will be available on the tablet here for all 27 that we downloaded. All right. We'll go back to our work order. We have the ability to edit, and we can change any of these fields as well. So we can choose to change anything about the description, the status. We can put in a fix, an actual finish date, how many hours we did, etc. So we can do all these things and save that. So let's just do, let's just say something unique like waste MGT. Oh, that's probably too long. Save. And so we've just saved 451864. We've got to remember that. And we could add a photo here as well. It's really testing me out. Another blurry photo, add attachment. Oh, we might just choose that PDF that we did before. That's nice and easy. So you can add anything on your tablet as well. So if you took a few photos before you're actually editing this, you can attach those. So PDF offline. And so we've saved that again. This is all local. This won't be available. So again, just to verify that 451864, if I looked at 451864 in my source of truth in JD Edwards, and then we were to look at the attachments, there is no offline PDF. It's just a text attachment at the moment. And but I go back to my tablet and I finished for the day. I've done all my work. I've taken one photo, updated one description. What I can do is to put the application back in online mode, and you can see what it's saying is, hey, do you want to change to upload all your changes back to JD Edwards? And I say, absolutely, I don't want to waste that. And I can hit upload, and then it's recognized that I've only changed one work order, and oh, there's the there's the demo demons getting into it. It tells me at least that what I've got an error, and it gives me some information about that error. So it says the entered order type is invalid based on the rules. So at least it's telling me why JD Edwards has not allowed that order type to be updated. That's fair enough. I can try again. And so what I have the opportunity to do also is to change that status if I wanted to enable that to get uploaded properly. But I get some feedback about any errors that's occurred in me uploading these changes back into JD Edwards. Now, I've shown you some really basic functionality there. The application is actually very rich in terms of being able to do meter readings, being able to GPS tag all of your assets, see things on a map. We have a lot more functionality available to us, but I was sticking to the agenda and the time that we've got allocated. So I think it's a good opportunity to give you a feeling of what the app is, what the app does, how it talks to JD Edwards. This app is live. It's been used for a couple of years at a large client here in Melbourne, in Victoria. They have 100 users running around the state, fixing railway assets with this app and with JD Edwards. And you know, they're very happy with what it's doing for them. In fact, some of the users are saying, can they have this on their desktop, because it's much easier to use than JD Edwards is. So I think that's testament to the functionality and the format of the application. Does anyone have any questions for me, or would like to see any particular piece of functionality again, or anything, or talk about the architecture?
Sharon, I have a question in terms of the security.
Yep.
The tablet would work perfectly for the internal stuff, so that it goes through the JD credential validations and the rules and other stuff. So that's fine. But what would happen if we want to get the same tablet to external vendors who don't have a JD login credentials?
I'm sorry, I'm missing sort of half the words. I don't know if anyone else is hearing me clearly.
What I'm saying is we want to use the tablet for the external vendors who don't have a JD credentials.
Yeah, that in its current format, that's not going to work. You need a JD Edwards license to use this. You would need to you've got to be very careful with multiplexing if people don't have JD Edwards accounts. And because the way Oracle sees licensing is if you are serving this to people externally, that is classified as basically a JD Edwards license anyway. So there's a bigger sort of workshop that we'd have to do around licensing and how you'd be able to use this. You know, even theoretically, when you're offline, you're not using a license because all the data's offline. But we've just got to be quite careful in this area.
Okay. The second question I had was like, does your app work on a customized application also?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that is a good question. So if you have modified or customized any of the work order screens, firstly, our app should work on it should work out of the box standard anyway. But if you needed to bring some of your bespoke functionality into our app, that is easy. So we can create a branch of our application and we can expose your additional fields or your additional functionality quite easily.
Okay. The third question I have is in terms of the time entries. So on the work order, at the moment, we're just using the speed time entry, and it's more of a real time rather than just a consolidated figure. Let's say if a mechanic is working for 1.5 hours, then we exactly take it as 1.5, not a 2 hours.
Yep.
So is it a small modification that happens in the mobile app, or is it like a big enhancement?
No, I would get someone to talk to you about that. You may have guessed the way I speak, I'm quite technical. I would get someone to talk to you how you're configuring your CAM module and how you want to track time, and I would let you know what I think that would take for us to put into the application, but that's really hard for me to estimate here.
And one final question in terms of printing this stuff, is there a functionality like as soon as you close a work order, the whole work order along with the attachment can be saved, or can it be done outside of the app?
Printing the work order from the tablet?
Yep, so that it gets all the attachment, and then that becomes like the single document and gets attached onto a work order or something.
Yeah, okay. So that could be done, but that would be a BI publisher. That would be, potentially you could have a UBE that ran for any job that had been closed in the last 24 hours, that it could pack up the work order and the attachments and make a PDF out of that. But that wouldn't be the role of the tablet. So I would put that into a UBE or a workflow or an orchestration down the track to pack those work orders together and create a PDF that you could look at historically. That's how I see that requirement.
Okay. Those are the questions from my side. I got Sam who has a couple more.
Shannon, if you are doing a work order and you identify more work that needs to be done, is there functionality to make a new corrective work order type from within the application, or do you have to add it to the desktop?
Yes, so I think I heard, sorry, you're very muffled, but can you create a follow-on work order or an additional work order? Absolutely. So offline and online, you can create follow-on work orders and new work orders. So if one of your work orders is inspect a motor, and you go out and inspect it and it needs something else, you can create a follow-on work order. It inherits all of the asset and equipment and information that's on the existing work order, and you can quickly fill that out. Now, if you're connected, of course, that gets added immediately into JD Edwards. If you're disconnected, that gets added when you synchronize your data.
Okay. Any other questions? Sharon, how does it actually work with the picture storing in JD Edwards?
Yes, so they all, as you saw, they're just traditional media objects. So when I open the work order in JD Edwards, so if we look at our 4004 that I put my dodgy picture of my phone, if we look at these and look at the last one, it's just a standard media object there. So I'll zoom out. So there's my phone as a standard JD Edwards media object, and that depends on your configuration and CNC setup. They could be stored in the database, or they could be stored as physical files. That's a decision that you make at design time with tools release or application release 9.2.
Okay. Mike, you got any questions? Guess no.
I think
we're
he's
good for waste management, Shannon.
I'm sorry, yes?
I guess we're good from our side.
Okay.
We have no more questions, so probably I'll have another session to talk in detail the actual requirements.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's given you a introductory session of what the application can do. That, like I said, there's a lot of functionality there, and our list of things to talk about today was reduced. And this, like the purchase order app, if you've gone through the pain of getting that up and running in your organization, we can do a similar exercise with this application so that you can see all of your work orders, you can see all of your assets, you can start to geotag things, you can start to realize the value in the mobile app.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good. Thank you, Shannon.
All right, well, thanks for making time for me. And look, if you've got any other follow-up questions, give us a buzz, send me an email, and we'll continue the dialogue.
Okay, no worries.
And I'll send you a link to the recording as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone. See ya. Bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.